it has been a chaotic election with, quite a lot of violence and also various legal issues and challenges. But behind all that, people have been voting. Those votes have been counted. And we've now got 45 seats declared out of 118 total. So that's about 40%. So we have some interesting trends and patterns. I guess the bad news is that of those 45 members of parliament that have been declared, been elected, there are no women. So there may still be one or two women elected in the week to come. But unfortunately, in that regard, it looks like this new parliament will look pretty similar to the old parliament, where there are actually no female members of parliament. So unfortunately, no or very little progress in that regard. In terms of parties, the most successful party so far is the party of the Prime Minister, James Marape. That is the incumbent Prime Minister. His party, the Pangu Party, has won 14 seats. The next party is the party of the leading contender, Peter O'Neill, and his People's National Congress, or PNC, has won 8 seats. And then you've actually got the majority of seats so far, so out of the 45, some 23, scattered among about 10 or so minor parties, and we also have a couple of independents. So quite a lot of dispersion, but the key thing in PNG elections is which party emerges with the most number of seats. It doesn't have to be a majority. In fact, it's never a majority of seats, but with the most number of seats, because if you're the party with the most number of seats, you get the first opportunity to form a coalition government. And since most MPs elected in PNG want to be in the government, they'll take up that opportunity, and the biggest party, therefore, tends to become the party of government. So at this stage, it looks like James Marape, who had by far the biggest party going into the election, will come out of the election with the biggest party. He's leading 14-8 at the moment, and therefore James Marape will be returned as PNG's Prime Minister.
Stephen, the violence that you've mentioned that we've seen in recent weeks has been really shocking. What impact is it having on the election?
Well, I think it's causing outrage, really. I mean, sadly, it's not a new thing. Some 200 election-related deaths were recorded in the last elections in 2017. But the nature of some of the tribal violence, has been really, really shocking. And then I think the fact that we've actually experienced violence in PNG's capital in Port Moresby, that's really shocked and angered Papua New Guineans. So, yeah, there's a lot of anger and disquiet, and there'll certainly be a lot of pressure on whoever forms a new government, really to do something about it, to make sure that the next elections go off more smoothly.
Stephen, well, it will be a challenge to deal with the intimidation, corruption and administrative issues that have been reported at this election.
Yeah, there's a catalogue of problems with the elections. Some are, frankly, very difficult for any government to stop. There is a lot of grassroots corruption. Well, there's corruption from the top down. So there's clearly no magic bullet, but other problems do seem much more amenable to a solution. For example, updating the electoral roll. It was clear at the last election that the electoral roll was out of date, and it looks like very little was done to actually update the electoral roll over the last 5 years. So that, while some of the deeper problems, yes, are going to take a lot longer to be resolved, and we have to be realistic, there are things the government could do to make sure the elections run more smoothly. And what I mean by that is if they run more smoothly, there will be less violence because people will be less frustrated, that they will have more trust in the process.
Do you foresee the next government, whoever is voted in, having issues maintaining stability?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not really related to the way in which the elections have run. I mean, there will be legal challenges around various issues, some related to individual seats, some related to the broader issues like the extension of the time given to counting. But that's fairly standard in PNG. The instability comes from this practice of votes of no confidence. In fact, what's developed in PNG is a situation where the incumbent Prime Minister does tend to get returned because, as I said, they go into the election with the largest party by far, and they tend to come out of the election with the largest party, and then that sort of gives them the automatic right almost to form the next government. And what that means is that then if you want to change a prime minister, the only way to do it is through a vote of no confidence. And that's how James Marape came to power in 2019. So this stability that we're seeing at elections actually translates into instability between elections. It's another difficult issue, but it is something PNG needs to tackle because if you're the Prime Minister, well, you think you're coming in for a 5-year term of office, but really you've only got 18 months. You have a grace period of 18 months, and then you're vulnerable to a vote of no confidence, and you have to be watching your back all the time.
And with all the delays, the first date of Parliament sitting will also be moved. What will happen in the coming weeks?
Well, what happens is that as MPs are elected, they go to one or two camps, as they're called. So they join with their fellow party members, and they normally decide either to support. There are two leading candidates. One is in this election. One is Marape, and one is O'Neill. So these two coalitions are formed. Then whichever one is the bigger gets to form the government, and traditionally it is the one that has the biggest party in it. And then they have to prove their power on the floor of Parliament. So, yeah, it's not exactly clear when Parliament will be called because of this delay in counting. But it should be in the next week that the counting is completed. And then in the next couple of weeks, it will be clear who's going to form the next government.
Stephen House, thank you.
Thank you very much.